You're tuning in to the Black Hollywood Live Network, featuring news, interviews, and commentary on all things Black Hollywood. Hollywood redefined. From Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is Black Hollywood Live. Athletes. Featuring in-depth interviews with athletes and members of the sports industry. Black Hollywood Live. Hollywood redefined.
You're listening to Black Hollywood Live.
And now, the host for Black Hollywood Live, Athletes.
The best thing ever. It is. Yeah. Hey, what's up? This is Athletes, and we're going to hold a minute for the beat here as it comes in slowly. Just bounce your heads before it comes in.
Waiting for it.
Feel the motivation.
Good song right now.
Take it away, Brittany.
It's taken a long time.
This is the slowest intro ever.
Yeah.
This is the slow. We're going to be waiting for a while.
We're supposed to be freestyling right now. That's what it is.
Oh, okay. Check it out. Well, welcome to Athletes. It's Good Friday. I'm Kevin John, and Brittany is looking right today.
This is happening right now. This is a real thing.
Yeah, this is terrible. This is the Branded Athlete, and fans, I promise you guys, you will never have to sit through an intro of me freestyling like that again.
Kevin, there's a great clip of you freestyling on your reel that I saw, actually. That's really good. You rap. I've seen it.
Yeah.
People.
You want? We can Humpty dance right now.
We can do the Humpty dance.
Yeah,
Absolutely not.
that's what we're good at.
All right. So, like I said, this is the Branded Athlete. As you see, we really have a good time in here because that's what it's all about. Talking sports, having a good time, and of course, interviewing some of your premier athletes. Now, speaking of interviewing athletes, as you will see today, we have no athletes that are here because we have something better for you. We have joined together on the opposite side of me. We're going to start off with the lady in red, Miss Brittany Johnson.
What's up, guys? I'm so excited for today, actually, because we get to talk more about what we think.
Yeah,
This is going to be great. It's going to be great.
Tangents. And
yes.
Kevin, I wanted to just point out really quickly, there is an athlete here. I'm an athlete, so you don't have to.
That is right. Ben was a fourth-string water polo player for his high school.
Ultimate Frisbee, don't get it wrong.
Oh,
Okay.
Same thing.
Kevin was on the bowling team, so that was good.
I was, and I bowled a 150. That was my average.
You know, I went to Fresno State, and we actually won the national bowling championship, so
Get out of here.
big ups to the Bulldogs.
Well, I'm glad you guys are known for something. All right, so speaking of rounding out the people that are up here, over to the left, you already heard his voice earlier. Here in a fresh Armani suit is your very own Ben Bateman.
We graduated from Men's Warehouse. Thank you,
Yes.
Kevin. Neither are correct. I'm Ben Bateman. What's up, guys? How y'all doing?
We're doing great. Man, first of all, before we get into it, just explain the suit for the fans. You are GQ'd out today.
Oh, thank you. Look at this. We're just better and better. It's nothing special. It's just
It's
almost a tux.
You told us, it's in between a tux.
Yeah, I
and a
liked
suit.
it because it was almost a tux, but it wasn't quite, so I could kind of dress it up, do both things. I got a pocket square here, kind of matches. So I got some blue suede shoes.
Yeah.
Can't get them. They're here. If anybody wants to get my shoes.
Oh,
Perfect. You probably can't lift your shoes up because your pants are extra tight.
They're very tight.
Yeah, extremely.
That's exactly. I wasn't moving as much during the intro. Because I know normally I kind of
You're going to hear a big old
get
rip.
down, but
That'll be hilarious. Speaking of tight pants, you know who else wears tight pants? Russell Westbrook. Extremely tight pants.
great fashion, that guy.
Yeah, he does. Incredible fashion.
Yeah,
love
but
it.
I want to talk about what you are wearing today, Kevin.
Yeah, where's the vest? Did you think we wouldn't notice
He
or something?
stepped it up like 20 notches.
So in case you guys, go ahead.
No.
In case you guys are watching for the first time, you know, there's a segment of the show usually where Ben and Brittany respectively, have critiques about my dress attire, okay? Particularly, it's my choice of vest that I wear. But
There's a segment called Vested Interest. And that's what we do is we take turns. And,
Yes.
By the way, Nate Burleson, I'm still waiting for you to bring me some clothes so I can actually dress to the
teal
T.
sweater vest, yeah. Lion blood, represent.
Hey, that's sexy.
Yeah, he has white pants on, white loafers. He looks so dapper today.
Yeah, all jokes
so
aside,
dapper.
Kev, what happened today? Did somebody
Do you have a
dress
hot
you?
date
Did you
after
hire
this
a
or what?
stylist?
He has a hot date later. I know
Did
he
Daryl
does.
talk to you? Did he give you some tips?
Yeah, absolutely. He said the reason why this show is not doing as well is because of my attire. He pulled me aside and said, Kevin, you have to step.
Our systems detect that a host has wandered off the subject.
Yes, exactly. Anyways, enough.
This is an important topic here.
Yeah.
This is because the viewers they were tweeting in, Kevin, what's wrong with your attire? So, anyways, speaking of attire and speaking of just speaking randomly about whatever comes to mind, we have a segment where we get to talk randomly about whatever comes to mind, and Miss Brittany will actually facilitate us on that segment.
Yes, well, this week I'm continuing with March Madness because I absolutely love March Madness. It's like, other than football season, it's my favorite time of the year. So originally, the NIT, which is the National Invitation Tournament,
Which is essentially not in the tournament, is what it means.
Well, it was actually preferred by colleges over the NCAA tournament back in the day, but Marquette in 1970 decided that they wanted to go to the NIT over the NCAA because they were put in the Midwest regionals. And they were like, no, we want to play closer to home. And, the NIT was Madison Square Garden, and they got a lot of media publicity by playing there. So they said they wanted to go to the NIT instead of the NCAA. So after that season, the NCAA banned any school from declining their tournament and then participating in another one. So that's been the case since 2005 when they actually lost a lawsuit, and now they had to purchase the NIT, and now the NIT is kind of like a consolation thing for if you don't make it to March Madness. But originally the NIT was the number one thing until the NCAA banned schools from declining their bid and participating in another. You could do both, but Marquette declined it that year, and they were one of the top schools. So
that's actually fascinating because I always assumed, and this is my maybe naive basketball fan, but I thought that NIT just stood for not in tournament. So I always thought it was like NIT tournament was a weird way, because I assumed exactly that's what it was, a consolation tournament.
Yeah.
So the fact, and then when I saw that it's the National Invitation, it's like a weird name. You would think that the NCAA was that. The invitation tournament would seem to be the preference, right? You're being invited.
Right.
So that actually makes more sense to me.
But I mean, I guess you could call it an invitational for those that didn't get to the grand stage.
Yeah, now, but before it used to be the number one platform. It was where everyone wanted to play at Madison Square Garden, so it was like the number one platform for media to go and watch. Because I mean, you think back in the 70s and stuff like that, they didn't have media like everywhere like we do now. It wasn't as you have the big media in the large cities. That's it. So they kind of all the schools wanted to play in the NIT because of the media, and Marquette decided they wanted to play there because their fans were closer to home. You know what I mean? So.
That's real interesting. I mean, honestly, does anyone now, if you look at the evolution of the NCAA tournament, does anyone now even really pay attention to the NIT?
Not at all. It's funny that they just had to ban it. You know what I mean? They just didn't. It's not necessarily that they were a better tournament, but they banned every school that was in the NCAA from going to that and not going to theirs. So
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, it's also interesting when you think about what we talked about last week with Ron. We were talking about what would it take for NCAA players to be paid, and I think one of the comments one of you guys made was, well, that would hurt their brand, so that would never happen. And the concept was, well, of course it would hurt their brand. It would be more fair. So their brand was being hurt. They just decided to purchase it, and the NIT is now owned. So it's just, you know what I mean? Eliminate the competition. Help your brand financially sell advertising. That's what it comes down to.
Well, obviously, money is behind everything. Yeah. But still, I think it's rather interesting because, like you said, when you think of the big stage, it's NCAA tournament, the bracket. That's what comes to mind. So to think that the NIT was actually the dominant one at that point in time that everyone wanted to get into is just. A very interesting thing. So,
random thought of the day.
That is random, but that's a random relevant thought though.
Yes,
because
it's a good one. I didn't know that.
That is very good. That is very good. Well, speaking of good, Ben, you always come up with good stuff for these hypothetical what would it take segments. So let's get hypothetical for a minute.
Excellent. So as per usual, this is what it actually would take for this scenario to come about. And this is a little bit more, it's less abstract. It's just what would it take for the Cleveland Cavaliers to miss the Eastern Conference Finals? And I think it's assumed because they're the second seed and it's LeBron James that they will make it. They'll be one of the two best teams in the East because the rest of the East is kind of garbage. What would it take? They would have to lose in the first or second round of the playoffs. I mean, somebody would have to beat them. How would that come about? What would have to go wrong with the Cavs? What do you guys think?
Well, I think first of all they would have to run into fatigue because you got to understand since the Cavs have turned it around, which was right before the All-Star break.
Yeah, January.
Yeah, in January when they started winning a lot of games. I think they won like 70% of their games 70 to 80% of their games from January up into the All-Star break and since.
Yeah, they were 19-20 before the run happened, and then
exactly. So, I think first of all, are they going to run into fatigue? Is that going to hit them? Because as you see, especially, and we talked about it, we had a long conversation about this last week with Ron Allen post-show. We were talking about coaches that sit their players around this time of the season to preserve them for the postseason. And I think the one thing that's going to hurt the Cavs is fatigue injuries. And then, in addition to that, just everyone finding everyone finding their responsibility. And to me, with the Cavs, and it's, I think it's kind of funny that he's not shown on here, but it seems like Kevin Love has not quite found his mojo within the Cavs. I was watching the game, watching him a few times, and he just seems not necessarily lost out there, but he doesn't seem as much of a contributor.
Well, I don't know if you guys saw on his. He had a couple interviews last week, and he stated that him and LeBron aren't the best of friends, and that he actually picked Russell Westbrook to win the MVP this year. So that's kind of, dissing your own teammate. And LeBron had a couple shady things that he said to Kevin Love on Twitter about him not being a team player. But I think it's gonna, I think this team has gotten a lot better, but I don't think that they have good relationships with each other, and especially even Kyrie's barely starting to get along with LeBron. Before, I guess in December and stuff like that, they weren't really the best of friends either. So I think for them to lose, someone's gonna have to sleep with LeBron's mom, and then he's gonna
Delonte West. Again. That was not a shot towards you.
He's gonna get upset again. I think they're not gonna win if they don't have good chemistry with each other.
Yeah, no, you see
they played worse when they didn't have the good chemistry, but now that they're starting to build that a little bit, you've seen them play better. And yesterday, they played the Heat and blew them out, and Kevin Love didn't play. So I don't necessarily know that he needs to be there, even though I think he's one of the big three on the team. But I think they need to have good chemistry. So don't sleep with the mom. With
LeBron's mom.
Yeah, that's
Kyrie,
not a good thing.
Kevin, don't do it. Kevin might already have. That's why he's throwing shade at him. I mean, we never know.
I heard his mother does like her vanilla white. So
you got a date with after the show. That's why you dressed up. No, just kidding. So my thought is this. I think that the problems that the Cavs experienced in the first half of the season came largely from the fact that Kyrie is an isolation player. That's historically what he's been great at. He's a phenomenal scorer, shoots the three ball as well as anybody, finishes the rack as well as almost anybody in the league, but he's really a scorer more than anything else. So his Cleveland teams that he played on weren't particularly good over the years because he was the only guy. Kind of like a Westbrook, but he's a little bit less of a triple-double threat. Now, in the playoffs, if you watch LeBron and Kyrie go into isolation, your turn, my turn kind of strategy, which is what happens sometimes when they're down at the end of a game, I think a team like Atlanta, maybe even a team like Chicago, if Derrick Rose is playing well enough offensively for them, could really give the Cavs problems. I don't know that Cleveland has a system in place strong enough to recover from the Blatt is clearly not an experienced coach. He hasn't coached extremely well this year. Tyronn Lue, in fact, has called a lot of the plays this year.
Yeah. Well, the coach came internationally. I believe he came from, what was it, France or Poland or something like that?
Israel.
Well, yeah.
I think.
Okay, well, something like, but anyways, he's international, so, and granted, yeah, internationally basketball is the same sport. It's still a different style of play, and, here in the U.S., and it's a lot more fast-paced, and I think that's the reason why they got off to a struggling start this year. I mean, I'm not blaming everything on the coach, but I think it has something to do with it.
I think what you're going to need to see the Cavs lose is you're going to need to see a team come in with a strong enough system defensively to be able to out-coach just LeBron and Kyrie. And on top of that, they're going to have enough offense to compete. Because Kyrie can score 50. We've seen that.
Yeah, he's done it twice in the last 2 months.
And LeBron, truth be told,
I was about to say, LeBron's
career, other than that one season with Dwayne Wade, the first one, 2011, when Wade was still kind of just in his prime, he was still right there. LeBron's never played with someone like that. He's never had another guy on the court that could drop 50. I mean, the closest thing to it would have been... I mean, there's nobody on the Cavs. Like, really, that first year with D-Wade was probably the only... So, other than that...
he had Mo Williams and Daniel Gibson and Cleveland. They were capable of going off for 40 at any given night.
I mean, maybe. Not like Kyrie, though.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting. One of the things you guys brought up was the fact that, LeBron is having these internal conflicts with his players. And the thing is, not to take a diss at Kobe, but LeBron has never really had that Kobe-type mentality where he's polarizing to his team.
Right.
And divisive within it. And, the thing about LeBron is he's pretty known. I mean, everyone has said he's a great team player.
Right.
And you've seen him make teams better. I mean, look at how Miami is doing right now without him. I mean, granted, Bosh is gone too, but you see the LeBron effect when he leaves teams.
Of course, yeah.
So, the thing that I think is interesting about that is the fact that, there is a speculation that there's stuff brewing within there because he's always historically been a very good teammate, a very good team player, a very good leader. And, maybe it's the simple fact that, you got to realize this was Kyrie's team.
Right.
Prior to LeBron getting there, this was his team. He ran things his way.
Yeah.
And to have to share that responsibility with somebody else is asking a lot. But at the same point in time, you have to look at what the Heat did. That was Dwayne Wade's team before James got there. And they were able to work in cohesion and still make things happen. So
I think it's how LeBron is starting to say stuff. Like, when he first got back to the team, he said the 4 years I've been gone, they've got a lot of bad habits since I've been gone. And then, when he talked about... when Kyrie had a game where he had, 27 points but no assists or whatever,
right.
And he was like, you can never have another game without any assist.
And then he did it again the next night.
Yeah, so it's just I think he's almost talking down like I'm your daddy. You know what I mean? Like he's talking down to. I mean, Kyrie last time.
When you win 4 MVP awards and 2 championships, you can be. I will call you daddy, okay? And everyone on the Cleveland should be calling him daddy.
But they're not, so I think that's the trouble that we're going to come with, especially in the playoffs, because they're going to. I mean, the finals especially. Cleveland hasn't been to the finals since 2007.
Yeah.
Kyrie was 15 years old. He knows nothing about that life, and I think he's going to have an issue with somebody trying to tell him how to play basketball.
Well, and Kyrie got embarrassed in that clip from early in the season when they were I think they were 9-9, and it was a close overtime game. I can't remember. They were playing the Bulls, and Derrick Rose was playing pretty well, and there was that soundbite of Kyrie looking over and he goes, "This is what a playoff game feels like." And everybody's like, "The playoff game? This is 3 weeks into the season. What are you talking about?" But anyway, I think that for me the X factor for the Cavs, it's going to be that you can look at Kevin Love almost as a bench player right now with how little he's been utilized.
Exactly.
And if he can step up in the playoffs, I mean, imagine a scenario where in Game 3 of the second series, LeBron comes off a pick and hits him in the corner 3 times and he scores 9 points in 5 minutes. That kind of rush that he could get, because he's that good of a player, could just revitalize the team, and that could swing the whole balance. So,
I 100% agree with you. I mean, Kevin Love was coming off an All-NBA second team last year.
Almost first. He's one of the 7 or 8 best players in the league last
year. Exactly. And, he's lethal. 3-point, he can post up. I mean, he's one of the most versatile forwards that there are in the league,
Yeah.
I would even put him up there with Dirk in his prime. His ability to isolate himself and make plays is just, know. So until he can work into that equation, to answer your initial question, what would it take for the Cavs to miss the Eastern Conference Finals? It would take for the bickering from the inside. They have to squash all of that and realize that LeBron, you're the leader. You know what playoff basketball is about. LeBron's been in the playoffs the last 10, 15 seasons he's played, pretty much every season except his first season, I think. So, that, and Kevin Love has to know his role, and he has to execute that.
Agreed.
If not, they will miss. And Atlanta or Chicago will slide in there. It'll be interesting.
I still think it's going to be ATL.
ATL, Shotty.
Really
that is true. What about them A-Town Hawks? Now, as we know about Kyrie, he is known for his flashy basketball plays, and he's known to, be a dapper dribbler. Now, coming up in our meme of the week is somebody else who is another guard that is a pretty dapper dribbler as well. And he did something so nasty, so disgusting, so appalling that Barack Obama himself tweeted about it.
It was the highlight.
Okay, Barack didn't tweet, but still, Barack would have tweeted. I mean, I kind of wish we had the clip up real quick that we can show. But this, explain the meme. Someone tell me what's going on here.
Well, Chris tripped over someone's foot is the reality of what happened. But nonetheless, that's often what happens when somebody gets posterized like that and falls backwards. I mean, Curry is just younger and faster, and he's just got swag right now. So he came off the baseline, behind the back twice with the crossover. I mean, it was one of the best highlights I've ever seen. And then he didn't even have to shoot it because there was a guy open on the wing. He could have kicked it out, but he was like, I got to make this shot because this is going to be the highlight of the year. Once I do the crossover, now I have to step back and hit it. It was just a mid-range too, but
that's true.
It was pretty bad. But, I mean, I'm a Clippers fan. I love my Clippers. So I do. Next game, Chris Paul had 27 points. So he didn't have a bad game. He didn't let that stop him. But the next
Let me ask you, who won?
By 4 points only.
Who won?
Golden State.
At the end of the day. And who got meme posterized? Go ahead, Brittany. I'm sorry.
But the next night, he redeemed himself and had 41 points, 17 assists, and 4 steals.
I'm sorry, Brittany. Are we talking about the next day? Or are we talking about currently what's going on here? All right, this is not future. We're talking present. And presently, at this particular point in time, Chris Paul. This is the thing. And Chris Paul is actually a good defender. I mean, he's a respectable defender. He's led the league.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been in the top 5 in steals pretty much like the last few seasons. I mean, great defender, but damn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like you no matter who was on Curry, they may have had a similar kind of effect like this.
It was just the momentum, and I mean, it was just such a good move too.
Yeah.
It was so quick. But
But Chris never gave up the whole game.
No, and Chris is incredible. I mean, the thing about Chris Paul is like, he doesn't need to prove himself in the regular season anymore. He could care less. Like, he really doesn't need to. He's done plenty. So at this point, Chris's only concern: can he succeed in the playoffs? Will they succeed in the playoffs? And he's on that dangerous trajectory of the Charles Barkley and Patrick Ewings of the world, the Steve Nashes of the world right now, where it's an incredible, flashy regular season guy.
John Stockton's of the world.
Always in discussion for MVP, incredible stats. And it's just unfortunate sometimes, those guys,
Well, the good news is this. If Chris does not make the playoffs, he has a background in dancing, all right?
Yeah.
They already made the playoffs. They're good.
Oh, excuse me. If they don't advance and go deep in the playoffs, you're right. They did clinch. You're
They beat the
correct
Warriors
about
around one last year, so.
Yeah. Well, CP3, it looks like he's doing a CP5 right there. He's spinning around and doing. That was just hilarious. Absolutely.
It was. But.
Absolutely hilarious. Anyways, I actually like we have time to get back and talk about the Clips and their recent disappointments in the playoffs. But with that being said, playoffs are obviously not only the hot topic in the NBA. Currently, the NCAA is having their playoffs with the tournament.
Yeah.
And we're down to 4 teams.
We're getting pretty exciting.
That went quick.
Some pretty darn good games.
4 teams. We got Kentucky, Wisconsin, Michigan State, and Duke.
Of course, Duke.
And I feel like Duke and Kentucky every year should just automatically be just thrown into the Final Four. It's like that every year.
They almost are. I mean,
absolutely not.
It's ridiculous.
Oh, I didn't see Fresno State in the Final Four, but
We've made it there before, though.
Oh, Jerry Tarkanian days, or was that before Jerry
that was
Tarkanian?
before Tark. Yeah.
Okay.
So first and foremost, who's your pick? Who's going to win it all? What do you think?
Right now, by far, Kentucky. I mean, they are just explosive. Did you see what they did to West Virginia?
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Ridiculous is an understatement. Yeah. They annihilated them.
Yeah.
And West Virginia's a good team, mind you. I mean, they're no scrubs. And just the way that, and just if you look at their size as well, physically, they are the biggest, the strongest, the fastest. And I honestly believe that unless the only team I can possibly see giving them a trouble would be Michigan State. And
that's who I picked for my final 2. Michigan State came out of nowhere. I mean, in round of 32, they beat Virginia, which was the number 2 seed, and then they beat Oklahoma after that, and then they beat Louisville. They've just been on a roll. Like, they're a 7 seed, so like for them to just pull through and like play how they've been playing.
And mind you, they're the only 7 seed that's in the Final Four. Obviously, all the ones are ones.
Seeds.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know. Michigan State, I think, is going to be the final 2. It's going to be Michigan State and Kentucky.
Well,
I think Kentucky's going to win it, but
Izzo's a great coach, and I mean they're very well coached. And the interesting thing about them is you can always see.
Wait, I'm sorry. You said Kentucky or Michigan State?
Michigan State.
Okay.
And I was just sort of saying, like, it's funny every year you look and when that team does well, it's rarely on the back of a player that does extremely well in the NBA. In fact, I would call it a surprise that Draymond Green has been as good as he's been in the NBA because Adrian Payne hasn't really done much. Mm-hmm. I mean, you occasionally will get a really great player out of Michigan State, but you're not talking about Kentucky or Duke. You're not talking about guys that are taken in the top 10 often and hit home runs left and right. So I think it is pretty impressive that year after year they're a competitive team. Mm-hmm. And they may be a finals team. For my money, it's hard to doubt the talent. Kentucky. I said it last week. It's just
they're out of this.
I mean,
Kentucky can beat half of the NBA teams right now.
Right.
No, that's ridiculous. That's not.
They can. I guarantee you, Kentucky would be an 8th seed on the Eastern Conference right now.
No,
for the playoffs, they would be a 7th or 8th seed right now.
You're forgetting just the divide in talent. They're so outlandishly different. That's not even close to true.
You really think so?
Not even a little bit.
You really think so?
The Knicks would beat them by 40. Like it's NBA players. The best athletes in the world, guys. These are
even with Carmelo, they were still like last place by far.
You're talking about the premier athletes in the world. There's like 500 positions in the NBA, and then there's another 15,000 basketball players around the world that aren't good enough to make the NBA who are professionals and playing professionally, getting paid to do it. And you're talking about kids who are 19 or 18 years old.
I'm not negating that.
The NBA are 19, 20, 21 years old.
And I was just about to say, alluding to that, out of Kentucky's team, how many of them do you think are actually going to get drafted?
Well, the starting 5 will all be drafted, no question.
Exactly.
And probably two of them at least will be first rounders.
Reserves, yeah. Well, those are the ones that don't stay, but as we know, Calipari is the king of the one and dones.
I'm just saying, there was somebody who went on record and made that comment recently, and I could not. Okay, that would be like me saying this. It would be like me saying the best women's basketball player, the best player in the WNBA,
can play in the
is
NBA?
good enough to be on a starting 5 on an NBA team. And you say that to somebody who, like any scout, any coach, any enthusiast, it's not a question. It's just not a question of like talent. It's a question of just, are you physically evolved?
I'll tell you this: I would take Brittany Griner over Andrew Bynum any day of the week.
Bynum's not even playing.
I know, but I'm just saying that's my point. Anyways, I would take Brittany Griner actually over freaking any Laker right now. Matter of fact, over Nick Young. Okay, that was a little far.
Let's
but
not
still
throw that much shade at Swaggy P. Come on.
Okay. Anyways, at the end of the day, I want winners. I want champions. I understand what you're saying. There's a divide between just pure athletic gift, talent, and obviously the NBA is a very fast-paced game. You have your premier athletes of the world. I understand all your justifications. All I'm saying is this. Kentucky, if you look, not even the whole team, just take the starting 5 and their 3 reserve rotation that they usually do, 3 to 4 reserve rotation. You take those 8 to 9 players, put them on one team in the NBA, and I guarantee you, they would be able to beat some teams. And not just some teams, they'll be able to beat multiple teams.
It's all hearsay, but anyway.
You guys, let's talk about what's really important.
What's really important? LeBron James' mom. Yes, she will actually be calling in shortly. So
I'm excited about what's the name of the tall kid, the 6'11" kid from Wisconsin that can shoot threes, hit 6 threes in that last game. What's his name?
Oh, I know what you're talking about, and I don't know his name.
He's like he looks like he reminds me of Nowitzki. I mean, he's that. Yeah, he's
really athletic too.
He's got that same kind of touch, that outside touch. I can't think what his name is right now, but that's the guy that when I'm watching Wisconsin, I'm like, I'm interested in this. I want to watch that game.
Yeah,
so.
but I think Kentucky's going to blow Wisconsin out.
They are.
It's going to be a blowout game.
No, I'm sorry. Who is your pick to win the whole thing?
Kentucky.
Kentucky?
Yeah, Kentucky.
Yeah. I think it's pretty much unanimous here.
Yeah, I can't see it happening any other way.
I mean, I like to say Coach K get another one, but Kentucky's a little too dominant now, so we'll see. Now, we just talked about the NBA draft. Obviously, the thing with the NFL has the shortest season out of all the 4 major sports. It's only, 4 or 5 months?
5.5, 6
but
playoffs.
It's constantly in the news during the offseason for all the team acquisitions, players going here. And, of course, April 30th. Kicks off.
Dun, dun, dun. The best day.
Exactly. The 2015 NFL draft will be taking place, and there's a lot of speculation right now. It seemed at one point in time, Jameis Winston was the clear number 1 overall pick to Tampa Bay. There's obviously he's had some off the field character issues per se, which is starting to become, if you guys have seen, it's starting to become real prevalent with the drafts now. If you have any bout of baggage off the field, you have teams that are a little more skeptical of drafting you now, and people like Johnny Manziel have ruined that. Go ahead. I
was just going to say, I think with certain positions that's true. I think when you talk about maybe if you're a top 3 running back or a top 3 receiver, maybe you're in the top 3 quarterbacks one particular year, and a team is picking 8th or 9th or something, and they have a chance to take you there. That's one thing. When you have the number 1 overall pick in the NFL, it's so rare to have the number 1 overall pick. You sort of have to look at it as like, we could gamble and we could try to take somebody who we aren't concerned about their character. For instance, they took Mariota instead of Winston. Mm-hmm. But the reality is you kind of just have to leverage position against potential. And I think if you're Tampa Bay, you have one option really, and that's to take the most physically talented player at the most important position in the game because you
Winston.
have that opportunity. Mm-hmm. And you don't get to pick number 1 very often. Even 2 is like a whole different scenario.
It's funny that it seems like...
And considering both teams won a quarterback, like Mariota's going to go number 2.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, initially there was speculation that he was going to go drop down to 5th or 6th, possibly go to the Jets, or the Eagles were going to make a push because, Chip Kelly's the coach of the Eagles coach. And there's a lot of speculation now that the Eagles may trade up or there's going to be something, they're making a push to try to get him. I don't know the reality of that happening.
Yeah, I don't know what the Eagles don't really have like a lot to offer though right now.
Yeah, well, they did give up a lot with what's it called?
With getting DeMarco Murray and...
Well, they paid a lot of money to their free agents.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
They spent a lot of money off season.
Yeah, they don't really have a huge amount of budget. I think that the biggest concern, if you were talking about them, the Eagles trying to trade up, would be that they have to assume they're trading into the second spot if they want to guarantee themselves Mariota to know beyond the shadow of a doubt they will get him.
Yeah.
And we saw this.
Because second spot is going to the Titans or who?
Titans,
Yeah,
Okay.
Titans.
We saw this a few years ago. We saw Atlanta trade that massive deal for Julio Jones, right?
Yeah.
When they traded up to get him. And to trade up like that when it's such a coveted player, it can really set your franchise back. And we're seeing that happen now with Atlanta. We're seeing their line is decimated. They don't have the draft picks to replenish. And now Matt Ryan, he's playing with a weak team.
He is.
With the veterans that he had at the time in Michael Turner and some of these
Tony
other guys.
Gonzalez
Yeah, they're retiring. They're getting old. They don't have the players to replace. And I think it's a dangerous move for a franchise like Tennessee that doesn't. They've got a great defense right now, but I don't think. I'm sorry, I'm mixing it up.
With Eagles.
The Philadelphia.
Eagles, yeah,
Yeah.
they're one of these teams. I think if they were to give up a lot of assets, you could really start to see that team wilt in a few years.
Well, you brought up something interesting. Obviously, when you do trade up like that, you're thinking for the now. Currently, I want this player, but you don't realize down the line how much that can affect your team because you don't have those. Especially if you're trading draft picks, you know,
absolutely.
and things of that sort. You don't realize down the line how much that does hurt when you're trying to build a team or build a line that can protect a franchise quarterback or
Right.
all those other things you overlook, because, yes, obviously getting the premier quarterback, wide receiver and Julio Jones, yes, those things we know will immediately impact the team for the good. But there's only so much that those things can do if you don't get those second, third, fourth round linemen, defensive linemen, and things of that sort, which do actually make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Look at Seattle.
That's what the Cowboys have done.
Right.
You had to get a Cowboys draft
I
pick.
did, because our last 4 draft picks, 3 of them have been for an offensive line.
And you guys have
This
a
year, look
great
at our
line.
offensive line. You know what I mean?
You guys had a great line. Well, obviously, DeMarco Murray was a testament to just how incredible
How
his
great our
yards
line
were a
was.
testament to that.
Right.
Which I think was a savvy move to let him go. But I was just going to say that the one thing about football that I think is the most specific to the sport in terms of championship window and all that stuff is that with football, generally speaking, if you have a really strong team, your window's 3 to 5 years. And 5 is a stretch. Like, as you saw with your Niners, really the big push.
You just had to throw that in there. Just like that, huh? You just
Who do you think the Niners are going to draft?
doesn't matter.
What I want to say is
We actually.
you
go ahead.
essentially get a 3 to 5 year run. 5 if you're really well coached and you haven't traded away 6 draft picks. But with Atlanta, they made that push. They lost to you guys in the NFC Championship game that 1 year, right? That's as far as they got.
Yeah, that was when we went to the Super Bowl. You remember that?
No, I know
2012.
that. And then we won the next year.
In the Superdome,
So, my point is, I think with the whole trading of draft picks and leveraging your opportunity like that, you really have to remember that are we in win now mode? Do we want to win the title in the next 2 years? And if we're not going to do that, we can't sacrifice our future. Because 3 to 5 years is all you get. And chances
I disagree.
are...
Look at the Patriots.
Yeah, but they're the anomaly.
They're like 10 to 12 years.
Give me
like,
one other example in
Since
history.
2011, they've pretty much been dominating.
You can reference the Warriors or the Spurs and the Patriots. They're the only teams in their respective sports that have done that. They're the only ones.
The Yankees have did that too.
Well, they have all the money in the world.
And the
the
Lakers
Yankees-
actually did that, or the Celtics did that in the 60s, 70s?
You're talking about Bill Russell?
Yeah, they
that's
won like
not even
9, 10 straight.
11 out of 12. but it's-
UCLA men's basketball did that during the Wooden era.
You're,
Yeah,
you're
they won
referencing
10.
dynasties in different, like over 50-year spans.
I'm just saying.
I think football is totally different.
I hear what you're
People
saying.
don't play for as long. The average career is only 3 years for an NFL player.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you have to take that
Yeah.
into consideration too when you're picking. You pick a basketball player and they could be on your team for the next 19 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Football,
clearly.
it's not
Look at
really going
Kobe.
to be like that. Exactly.
Just to conclude with this, so we can move on to the next one. One of the teams that I do think, speaking of drafting and making good decisions, would be actually the Seattle Seahawks, who is actually our division
don't have a
rival.
first-round pick.
But no, I'm just speaking historic, like in the last if you look at the last 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of their picks that they've had
Have hit, yeah.
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 And, I think, I don't know who their general manager is now.
The Hawks?
Of the Hawks, yeah. But brilliant guy.
It's
And
the old guy from
who cares?
John
But-
Schneider. John Schneider.
Is it Snyder?
Yeah, he came from Green Bay.
Okay. But at any rate, you've seen the effects of even their late round draft picks
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
have turned into premier players. Now, the unfortunate thing is they have to start paying them the big bucks once it
course.
hits. But you could just see certain teams, how they're young, they're building. So my question to you then, if a team like the Seahawks, who has a lot of young people and they're speaking dynasty, you say they only have maybe 1 or 2 more years left?
The sad thing is, as a Seahawks fan, is if I was going to be in Vegas and you were going to give me odds and I had to bet, I would say that by 2017, we're going to be on a decline for a little while because, like I said, we're going to have to pay Russell the extension. We've already had that 3 to 5 years, that window. That was 2012, 13, 14. I mean, we'll have probably a good season this year and maybe a good one next year if we're lucky, just because strong management of our talent. We've paid a lot of the right guys. We're not going to have a draft. I mean, we're going all in under the assumption that a 4 to 5 year window. That's why we traded for Jimmy Graham. I'm telling you, 2 years, you have to start letting guys go. Guys get old. You don't have your draft picks. You're always picking 28th, 29th, 30th. It starts to come back to bite you. So even the Patriots, after the initial run, they missed the playoffs.
That was because Tom Brady got hurt in 2008 with his ACL. Matt Castle had to step in, and he didn't lead the team.
05, they won 9 games. 09, I believe, they won only a couple games. Like, they're the best team ever in the history of the NFL for their span, and even they had down years in the middle of all that. So it happens.
It happens, but we'll see. It'll be interesting. We'll see what happens, you know. Now, moving on to round out our hot topics. For those baseball lovers like Ben, who is probably the biggest baseball fan on this panel.
Yeah, huge.
Absolutely. He just beams baseball. As you know, his favorite movie is The Sandlot. So anyway, you know, the 2015 baseball season is getting ready to kick off next week, actually. And, you know, speaking of sports where there's not a lot of, you know, dominance or span, with the exception of the Yankees, Major League Baseball is another one of those sports where teams can be hot. Like if you look at the Giants, they've won 3 out of the last 5 World Series. And I think they can repeat again this year. We'll definitely see. But some interesting news came out in baseball today. Slugger from the Angels, and he's been in a lot of stuff.
Mike Trout?
Huh?
Mike Trout, are you talking about?
No, Mike Trout is never in trouble, man.
No, you start Slugger, he's been in a lot of stuff. He's like advertisements. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, no, it's Josh Hamilton.
Okay,
you familiar with Josh? He was
also a good player, yeah.
Yeah, 2011 AL MVP, great slugger. He actually, interesting thing that happened to him, he appealed, and arbitrators found him exonerated, meaning that he doesn't have to serve a suspension because he got caught with performance enhancements and some other stuff. And he was exonerated from all that. So, you know, that was obviously the big news in baseball today. But my question to the baseball lovers on this panel is, what team do you guys think is going to be the favorite to win it all this year?
You know, Brittany, I'm going to let you take this one first.
Well, I'm kind of anti-baseball at the moment because I'm a Dodgers fan and I'm a Matt Kemp fan. And
he's with the Padres now.
Yes, he left our team and went to the Padres, and all I'm left with is Ethier, and it'll be okay. But you know, I don't know. I mean, I think baseball has such a long season, and people are out for like 20 games at a time, so you kind of don't really know how baseball is going to turn out, and it's really hard to say speaking today. But obviously, I want my Dodgers to go all the way because I want to slap Matt Kemp in the face.
Oh, wow. Maybe Matt Kemp would like that if you slapped him. You know, that he may enjoy that.
Right.
Ben, how about the Seattle Mariners? What are you expecting them to do this?
I was actually going to say, I think the Seattle Mariners actually have a pretty good shot this year. We look to be a pretty good team. We signed Cano to a pretty massive contract.
I love Robinson Cano.
And
he's awesome.
He's actually turned out to be worth just about exactly market value. It was a pretty smart move.
Yeah. He's one of the best second basemen in the league.
Yeah, we paid him a huge amount of money. It seems like the Angels are also quite good, so that division...
Incredibly good.
Yeah, that division seems like it's, you know, last year it looked at one point like you might even have 2 wild cards coming out of the division, right?
Yeah.
Because the Athletics were incredible last year as well. And I paid some attention to baseball last season. Baseball's not my favorite sport.
It's just so long. It's just too long.
I find it a little boring. You know, the thing is...
It's America's favorite pastime!
No, I went to a baseball game and it was 14 seasons and I've never gotten drunker in my life.
You never gotten drunk, or
it was 14 innings, yeah.
Well, but that's even more exciting. Extra innings.
Exactly, but there's nothing to do but sit there and drink.
Yeah, peanuts.
Time.
Take note, guys. If you want to get Brittany Ways to take her to a baseball game.
A really long baseball game.
Did you hear that, Matt Kemp? All right. So moving on from MLB opening week, you know, we are going to just get into a quick debate real quick. What's going on here? The Spurs. Back to the NBA playoffs, which is, obviously extremely prevalent right now. A lot of questions have been going on about the Spurs. Do they have a chance to repeat this year? And I would say, I basically think they can repeat. I think they will repeat, and I think they have more than enough talent to make a repeat because of these 3 right here.
You think
I don't think it's because of these 3. I think it's because the other
Kawhi
players
Leonard.
like Kawhi, yes,
Yeah.
and freaking Danny Green, like that come up out of nowhere when these guys are tired and want to take little naps in between the game. They come into the game.
It's called rest.
Or a nap.
Jordan got rest.
Well, old people, it's called a nap.
A cat nap, whatever.
A little cat nap. I think it's those guys that kind of make this team a complete full circle. But what do you think, Ben?
I was going to say, I think that the real sign of an offensive or just a coaching genius, which we talk about with Belichick, they're compared all the time, right? Popovich and Belichick.
Oh, yeah.
Very similar in terms of their evolution as coaches. And I think it's amazing that he took the team over with Duncan in 1997. He's been there the whole time.
Yeah,
and
even with Robinson was there.
And his coaching style has changed and evolved. And people always talk about system. He'll slot in these guys that aren't superstars aside from the most important players. He'll slot in these guys that come out of nowhere and they'll win championships with them. The system hasn't always been the same. He's constantly evolving it, and he's thinking for this year, this is the personnel. So I think they have a shot to make the Western Conference Finals. The big reason that I don't think they're going to repeat is because the Warriors will win in the Western Conference Finals, and that's because I don't think that Steve Kerr is going to be rattled.
Blasphemy.
Because he's a disciple of Greg Popovich. He knows the system. He learned from him. Kerr's a very good coach, and I just think they're deeper and younger and fresher. So I don't think they can do it because I don't think they can get to the finals.
And they have a woman's touch, The Spurs did hire the first
Becky
female,
Hammond, is it?
Yes,
I think it is,
first female full-time assistant coach. So I think she offers a little bit
of course, there's no bias in that opinion right there.
No, but she does. I actually had an interview with Danny Green, and he said that she kind of adds a little bit of a little.
Yeah, she adds a little bit of estrogen to the locker room. So, anyways, the thing I was going to say, okay, the one thing you cannot deny about the Spurs is age. Obviously, age gets anybody. But just so you know, the Spurs always, even they were looking like that last season, but the thing about the Spurs historically, they play great when either the season is on the line or the series is on the line.
Always.
Since March 1st, the Spurs are 13-3, and there's only one other team in the NBA that has won more games since March 1st than them, which is who you said would be their inevitable. The Warriors. And another thing I want to say is people forget that when the Bulls went on their second three-peat, Pippen, Jordan, Rodman were all 34 and up.
Yeah.
They were 36, 30 by the time they won their last one. So at the end of the day, I think with age comes wisdom, comes veteranship, and it comes even more ways of knowing how to beat your opponent.
If you want to reference speaking of that they went on their second three-peat, the greatest team in NBA history, the 1996 Bulls. The
72-10.
The 72-win team.
Yeah.
That was the last team to have the highest offensive and defensive efficiency through the entire regular season. The last team to do it. You know who's doing it right now? The Golden State Warriors. It's the first time since 1996. I'm just telling you, there's not a chance that another team is going to take those guys down. And they didn't even need to win against the Clippers the other night. That was just a pride moment. I would bet money. If you
realize they almost lost against Phoenix?
It doesn't matter.
They almost lost against Phoenix. This close.
In a totally irrelevant
against
game.
Phoenix.
Irrelevant game.
How is that irrelevant?
Golden State almost lost against Phoenix.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Spurs.
They're 5 games ahead of anyone for first place in the West. It's not even close. They don't need to. They're playing just out of pride.
Then one thing you got to understand is there's regular season basketball, and then there's playoff basketball.
And we'll be doing this show during playoff basketball. I can't wait.
And Warriors have truly not been tested come playoffs. Why did they get rid of Mark Jackson last year?
Because he didn't have the mental fortitude to take him through the playoffs.
Well, he took him to the playoffs, all right. He just couldn't get him through the playoffs. That's why they got Steve Kerr.
Steve Kerr's going to do it.
And the Warriors have yet to do that the last few seasons. Now, Mark Jackson did a great job. I'm not tossing no shade on him. But the players themselves, they don't have the endurance. A 7-game series, you realize what happens. Pop, the mastermind that he is, he's going to find ways to make Steph Curry ineffective. He's going to find ways to make Klay Thompson ineffective.
So what you're telling me, Kev, you're putting on the board, Brittany, you are witness, because you're telling me the Spurs are going to win, and I'm telling you the Warriors.
Absolutely.
That means that we have a straight-up bet between the two of us. So what's on the line, Kev? What is it?
A suit for me.
I ain't buying you a suit.
A suit for me, and I'll get you.
Aren't you confident in your team?
Yeah, but
you really think Golden State's going to win, so why not bet him a suit?
I know Golden State's going to win. You want to buy me? You want to take me suit shopping?
I mean, I'll go to the flea market. We'll figure something out.
His suit shopping might be at Burlington Coat Factory.
It really will, right? Brittany knows what's best.
I'll put a suit on the line.
Why don't we do a tie? You guys could do a tie.
Okay. I don't wear ties.
Oh.
Actually, yeah, he does it because he shows his cleavage.
We'll do some some sparkly body butter.
To be determined. We have at least one more show before the playoffs.
Exactly. We'll figure this out. But anyways, you heard it first. I'm saying that the Spurs are going to beat the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals and have a chance to, actually, they will repeat again this year. I think it's just in them. They're all aging. Duncan, we have no idea. And that's another thing you got to realize. They don't know how much more time they have left. It's now or never
This is the last
for
run.
them. It could potentially be their last run.
Yeah.
So if anything, I think that's just more encouragement. So anyways, that's pretty much that. But before we get out of here, we like to do a little something called rapid fire.
No, I don't have that in my outline.
And I purposely did not give that to you guys. Whoa! All right, so this is the way we're gonna do it. This is the way we are
Sneaky
gonna.
there, buddy.
I like to be a little
saw it
sneaky.
coming.
Oh, nope, we gotta wrap. We gotta wrap up. Sorry.
Oh,
Next
we have to wrap up. Oh, okay. Well, you guys
Next
are
time.
extremely lucky. Saved by the bell.
Darn.
We will continue rapid fire. Another lucky son of guns. All right. Well, anyways, that was the show, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Rapid fire will be continued next week. In the meantime, I'm Kevin John. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Hey Kevin John. Brittany.
Brittany at I am Britt Johnson, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And you can like me on my website at BrittanyJohnson.com. That didn't make any sense, but I finished.
That makes it. I like the website. Yeah.
Yeah, just go like it. Just look at it and be like, oh my gosh, I like it.
I'm Ben Bateman Media on Twitter and Instagram, and soon to be on Periscope, guys. That's the new thing, so check it out.
I have no idea what Periscope is.
Yeah.
So
Is it
yeah.
like Twistagram?
You'll know soon.
Just well, it's like Tinder or something. So-
Grinder?
Oh, Lord. All right, on that note, we're going to grind our way out of here. Like I said, this is the Branded Athlete. We're here every Friday. Catch us next week, same time, same place. Peace out.
From producers Maria Menounos, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire BHL crew, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us at info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I'm your BHL announcer, Scipio. Instagram me at Planet Scipio. Thank you for tuning in.
Hollywood Redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.